next leap to then just go out and advertise and find out, well, the universe is a little bit bigger for this good or this service. Let's just see what it looks like. So, I mean, generally speaking, I just think that the adoption of any policy is going to result in adjustments, growing pains, change, and maybe we just need to go through that. I would favor that. My fourth and last reason, most important, the policy is written in such a way, and I know it very well, to be very flexible. There are, as mentioned in that summary that I provided, there are exceptions, which are the generally accepted exceptions that you have in a procurement policy, whether you're talking about municipality, state procurement, federal procurement. I mean, I've seen these at different levels. Beyond that, so a number of large contracts can just be totally accepted from the provisions for some reason. It's maybe state monies that apply, and those particular rules of the road would apply, and not our little East Lyme purchasing policy. In addition to exceptions, we have, I think, a well-written section on waivers, which has and I'll bring your attention to it. If you look at section 10 in the policy, it's written with standards, and I think Mr. O'Connell was happy to see, if I must say, he was happy to see that there are standards in that section 10. It's not just waive it because you feel like it. It's the first sentence that it shall be permitted, you'll have these waivers, they shall be permitted only if necessary and only if in the best interest of the town. And then the next sentence goes on to discuss Board of Selectmen waivers, which quote unquote cannot be avoided and would well serve the needs of the town. If a department head needs to apply for a waiver, that has to be done in writing, and the specific reasons why the waiver should be granted must be given. So the waiver is definitely a helpful tool, and it is in policies I have read. Town of Avon, for example, crystal clear on having waivers. So my suggestion, along with my fellow board members who have spoken tonight, is take the option. You have two options. You can go to 50 and kind of still do what you're doing. You can move ahead and bring us a little bit out of the darker ages and take the $25,000 threshold, use that, and use the other features of that are well written in this policy to help you out. And then you examine 3 months, 6 months, how is this working out? There may be internal changes that you need. Perhaps Mr. Burgaux's department, Public Works, needs some additional help from other departments when they need vehicles. Maybe they need to do some legwork more than they're doing. I'm just throwing that out there as a random possibility. But I think that I'd rather go that route, knowing that this policy, so close to an ordinance, adheres to a standard set by the state, and we have a flexibility built in versus jumping to the 50, which I haven't seen out there, unless I'm missing something, and still do what we're doing and not, doing better with competitive bidding. So I think that's where I'm at. So I urge you to adopt the latest version, October 17th version. Thanks.
Mr. Burgaugh. Appreciate you sticking around.
Delegations we're talking about?
Yes, this is delegation, sir.
Well, that's something else, that is. Thank you.
And should I wait?
No, delegations.
Joe Burgaugh, 19 Adawan Ave.
We're not answering questions.
Director of Public Works. I just wanted to keep it brief, I know, because this whole subject, but I am the Director of Public Works. We do have a lot of this stuff come under us. We're not the only department that this comes in. We're not against the policy. We've been working with the policy. This draft policy, we all up to the last whatever years it's been doing, whatever policies in front of us, we've been following. The only issues, main things we're concerned are in the best interest of the town. And we were getting concerned when it comes to formal bid process. There's a few things. One is advertisement. If we don't have to advertisement, we don't have cost for that, stuff like that. We can start putting everything out to bid. Second is when you do put formal bid processes, I know Ann had talked about the state and stuff like that. If you've seen the state books lately, as far as when they do advertising, watch how many trees come down. They're usually the packages of stuff. We're trying to streamline things, make government simpler, not bigger, and bigger bid packages, bigger plans. Because when you go formal bid process, you better have it right, because if you open it up to all the contractors in the world, and not the contractors, the local contractors that we know, rely on, and work well with, when you start, well, here's a good example. We could bid it out and have a paving contractor. We have a paving contractor that's working in Saunders Point that's there. We have a paving contractor that the state's using on Main Street that you can go on social media and find out how the public likes their performance for the state right now. That's a low bid contract, that's a formal bid process, and they don't really care, because now they're talking about trying to pave downtown Main Street during the day in the next few weeks instead of going at night. So we try to use contractors that work with us, and we try to reach it out on all our on-call bids. We reach out. It's not 2 or 3. We try to go 8 or 9. We try to go to any of the contractors we know that will do a good job for the town. If you put it out to the world, you could get someone from like Coventry, Rhode Island that is technically capable to do it. They come down. You don't have a 2-inch thick standard specifications,
yeah.
And they get you. They get you. There's something in there that you didn't put in there. There's something that it costs the town. It happens all the time. That's the concerns, not that we're trying to work with stuff. Well, honestly, the Public Works part, we obviously will do everything that's in a policy, and we'll follow to the T. We're trying to provide service to the town in a streamlined fashion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public delegations? Public delegations. Mr. Schultz?
Mike Schultz, Lovers Lane, East Lyme. Are we able to address things this evening? I know there's some bunch of stuff going on with comments and policies and stuff, but with things that are not on the agenda?
It's public delegations, sir. You know how it works.
Okay. Then I'd like to address the fact that this evening, we just passed an appropriation for health. For the health insurance. That total is $1,195,000 plus. And now, and supposedly we've taken funds that have be directed to the town to and appropriated money from education for this to cover this. And now, what also is sitting in the background is the special education lawsuit, where we're looking at fund balances. We're talking about the Board of Education 2016-17 leftover money that's supposed to come back to town of like $194,000, and now 2017-18 $350,000 for a total of $544,000 that the judge may deem upon us to have to pay. So I'm just concerned about these dollars and what the heck it's going to do to our budget. We're and next year, it's I don't know what this lawsuit is about. I wish I could get a little detail on it anyway, so that the public could know. But it's kind of scary being back here and with that. So that's my first item of concern. The second one is that within the review of the budget. It's been stated, and this is involving our healthcare costs, that the library and the water and sewer department, those employees are not town employees. And yet, they're a part of the town insurance. I don't know what those numbers are, but it's gotta be, then they're also falling into that $125,000 bucket that we have. and the maintenance fees, the Aetna fees, it's all adding on top of that, adding to the costs. And it seems that it's something that could be looked at a little more, in a little more detail to help curb these costs as a recommendation and as a concerned taxpayer. And lastly, in my reviews, I found that there was a statement made by you, Mr. Nickerson, that we have numerous deputy fire marshals to serve in different capacities as needed. Could you provide some kind of information regarding how many deputy fire marshals do we have, and are all of these paid positions, or are many of them voluntary positions? If you could provide me feedback on that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Randall?
On that, Mr. Randall, 194 Boston Post Road, East Lyme. One question I have on, Mike just brought up about the deputy fire marshals. Is the fire marshal that just retired, is he still on the payroll in the town? I'd like to know about that. I'm not too happy about this cost of this insurance. This really, really bothers me an awful lot. I mean, we did our budget, and we come out on the budget one, and our first selectman comes out and says we're having a zero increase on the town side. Then all of a sudden, we got a $1.5 million shortfall in the insurance. Now, you can't tell me that you didn't know about this, because if you didn't, somebody's not doing their job. I've been in business for 45 years. This is my 45th year. And I know what's going on in my business every day. Okay? Somebody didn't do their job, and I'd like to know who it was. If I can find that out. And we seem to be spending a lot of money. I don't know what's going to happen this year. We're $2 million in the red in the state, plus the unfunded mandates we're going to have to pay one of these days. And I don't think the Democratic Party in the town of East Lyme is doing anything to help the taxpayers. Not a thing. Because Mr. Nickerson and his crew get away with everything they want here. And we keep spending money up at this Board of Education. Money, more money all the time. And I say they want to hire a few more social workers and a psychologist. And I don't know, we have a few up there already. And the golden goose always gets what they want. And this turf on the football field should be paid by the sports complex. Let them get out, raise money, put some advertising signs out there, collect some money. Parents should have to pay if they want their kids to play sports. And they always want more and more. So as I recommended before, I think we should put a 4% tax on these education people who want to build new schools and have the best of everything. I see we want to build another ball field somewhere out by the State Farm. We got plenty of ball fields. We don't need another one. And one other thing, I got a printout of what it cost us down where that old gas station was down there. And I remember when I spoke up about the cleanup, Mr. Nickerson told me it was gonna cost $19,000. Well, I think we spent a little more than $100,000 on cleaning that up. But it was a grant. We have grant trees, and we just go up there and take the money off. Thank you.
Anyone else? Please, sure.
Mike Schultz, Lovers Lane, East Lyme. I'm sorry to, I missed one item that I wanted to address, which was, would it be possible to have a public forum for health insurance, an information session, so that we can actually have a presentation that we could attend and listen in and get a full understanding of all the costs associated with it, because it seems like no matter, whoever you talk to, you get a little bit of a different story. We're getting, pieces. We know, I know you've been into negotiations, and we're increasing the premiums that people are paying, and we know that there's somewhere between 14 and 18.5% contributions from employees, and there was something about 28% increases. It's just confusing, and then there's information about what do we pay maintenance-wise for Aetna to actually administer the program, how much per person that charge is. And then there's Brown and Brown. I guess that they're the ones that they must have. They got a fee to the town because they are the ones that actually go out and solicit insurance for the town. So there are all these pieces that I think need to be put together, because this is a huge number for us, the health insurance. I think we're over. I think it's just on the board side is over $9 million. I think it's over $9 million. So it's a lot of money. It's as big as your payroll, almost. So if that could be taken into consideration and some thought given to it, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Anything else? A lot of answers coming up, and we have a short meeting, so stick around for them. Hearing and seeing no other delegations, we'll move on to the approval of minutes.
Move to approve the regular meeting minutes of October 3rd, 2018 is submitted.
Second.
Any comments, corrections? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? We have a consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent calendar for the meeting of October 17th, 2018 in the amount of $3,836.43.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Terrific. One and only item on our agenda, well, we've added an item on the agenda, which is an executive session, but old business discussion, possible action of the purchasing plan. Boy, there's a lot to clear up there, too. You asked me to send this through to the town attorney. I did. Your copy tonight is the marked up copy from the town attorney. I think your copies have little orange marks next to anything that was changed. Most of the things that were changed was that dollar amount. There was one other, let me get to it. The item on the first page about the selectmen will maybe amend this policy from time to time and may use its discretion on going out to use the same format as this time, or in effort to be more expedient, maybe just change the policy. Most of the other things in here are the $50,000 change, as we requested the attorney to adjust, and we could always change it back. And a few other minor items. In discussion with the town attorney, he cautioned against using waivers except in emergency situations, that if we have a practice of passing over our policy, and you know, giving waivers every time the department head comes up to my office and said, well, you know, we'd like to get a waiver here. It always opens up for a litigious situation where someone didn't have a chance to, and wait a minute, you didn't follow policy. It also puts the first selectman, no matter who he or she is sitting, might be sitting in that chair, in a difficult situation, because he's going against his or her own policy. So while the waivers are there, I wouldn't want to use them, frankly. A couple of comments were made tonight by some Board of Finance members. One, and with great respect, but when we're doing home projects, we do go out for bids, and many of us would, but we're not putting an ad in the paper for anyone to bid. We're using reputable people that we may have known, that we may have done business with, or our neighbor has told us to, and we might get 3 bids, but we didn't put it out to the world, and some strangers showing up saying, I'll do the work for a low bid, and then they come and maybe their work isn't as high quality or whatever. The bottom line is this bid process from 10 to 50, what I've requested you consider, is not just go out and spend the money. It's still a bid process. It's a sealed bid process. I'm not sure that was clearly communicated this evening. We're still looking for, and I would suggest even an amendment to your draft tonight. On page 6, at the bottom it says, opportunity shall be given for competitive bidding from at least 2 and preferably 3. I'd say at least 3 and preferably more. So get 3 sealed bids up to 50 and get the competitive process going. But the reason why this town runs efficiently, and we are the envy of many towns in the area, how are you putting out a budget that low, the mill rate staying that competitive, is because again, with respect, we might not be following the same old rules that other towns are doing. If we move to an advertised bid process from $25,001 and above, we're going to need another engineer, at least. We got that number that you asked for, the 25 to 50,000. How many projects were between 25,000 and 50,000 last year? It was 9.
It's nice.
That's at least one engineer to put together these packages that have to be mailed out, advertised in publications, and solicited. You need exact specifications when you're going out to bid in a formal process, because what's not in the bid, they don't have to perform. When you put together a couple of 8.5 pieces of paper and you're dealing with Jackatillo and you know, the locals, and people that we've done business with, and we know we're getting a good bargain for, and these people perform, they outperform for us, and they always have. We're still in the bid game from 25 to 50. We're still in the bid game, and I'm going to suggest we go at least 3 bids or more, and that might put a handcuff on it. They can't get more than 3 bids or more. Maybe they got to go to a formal to solicit other providers. But we're talking efficiencies here. We're trying to bring down the size of government and stay competitive and stay efficient. But this will handcuff us.
On the 9 bids that you mentioned, or the 9 projects, do you know offhand if any of those projects were funded by local business people out of the 9?
I didn't do, we didn't go deep into the numbers. And I asked Anna to take a look at the number, and Joe might know it too.
More likely than not, almost all of them. I mean, that's who we mainly do all business with, is local contractors. By local, we're talking in the media.
Yes.
It might not be East Lyme
Regional.
confines, but.
Regional. So the answer is yes, probably more than likely all of them. We didn't go to Coventry, we didn't go to Hartford looking for bids.
And so do you think that this policy would have precluded any of these businesses getting the bid? Any of these businesses? If we adopted this policy, do you think that any of these bids would not have remained local, any of these?
No, I don't know that the results would be different. But the amount of work that needs to be put in, the engineering specs that need to be put in, and the cost of advertising, and the legal stuff that goes along with that, would be added to the cost of the project. And I think we would get many times the same result.
All right. I have a couple of questions. The state, when we take or accept a state bid and a state bid price, that state bid has, that the price that they go with, that has already been solicited to many others and gone through the bidding process.
That's gone through more than likely a formal bidding process, sealed bid, advertised, full blueprint.
So, in accepting the state bid, if we are to do that, does that count as just one of the three?
No, I think
No.
that's an exception. We
That's
had
the
language for
full, that's the full process.
that. We
of-
had language in there for that, unless if it's a state competitive,
Do you know what section that
I'm
is?
gonna find it.
Okay.
If the state has a bid, we generally, if we're gonna use that price, we don't have to go out to
Right,
bid
that was,
two more times. We're using the state bid. They've already gone out and solicited.
Right, and the reason I'm asking that is, of course, that was one of the points that was made
Crest,
in this, in. the
cooperative
RE6.
purchasing, that's,
correct.
8E.
I'm sorry,
cooperative.
what number?
It's, exception 8E, cooperative purchasing, on page 8.
Page 8.
So like, yeah. Second paragraph.
Okay, you were on the subcommittee, you think that that's addressed there,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Dan, do you agree? I mean, that was the intention of that exception, was the cooperative
Yes,
purchasing.
to avoid the bid process. and
Right.
You've already got a process in place that's
So.
assuring that you're getting your best price.
All right, so in other words, if we accept the state bid, then are we obligated to then get two other bids? No.
No.
But how do we know then that that's competitive?
Because the state did the work for us. And we have the trust of the state. Well, you know.
Well, in other words, how
I know
do-
where you're going with this. Maybe we shouldn't.
Well,
But,
in other words, as we heard tonight, should a local vendor then be asked, in addition to going with the state bid?
As we did with this.
Correct.
With this, I think, and I'd like to encourage department heads, maybe it doesn't have to be in formal policy, that we try to use local vendors and give them the opportunity. Your point was pretty solid when you got up to the microphone at the town meeting, that we also have to stay within the ethical bounds. We can't be we can't show our cards and say, here's the state low bid, what can you do for us?
And so these state bids are easily accessible
That's correct.
after the price has been announced, so that a local vendor could have the opportunity.
Sure.
Before we called the process to an end.
Correct.
They could do the homework.
Correct.
And find out what the state bid is and decide whether they could match that.
Right.
So I would argue that in that case, the exception doesn't have to be enforced or utilized. So section E, if we had the cooperative, yes, we could also get other bids. It just means that we're not gonna use that exception. It's kind of up to discretion. It doesn't prohibit us from getting other bids,
All right.
Right.
right?
Right.
It just says you could just go with the state, agreed.
Well, I think that's the point. We could, but should we?